Today's video will be sharing our top 5 horror tropes and how to use them in your game.
First of all, what is a trope? It's a term used in like television, even novels, movies. Think of it kind of like a cliche, something that you see or that happens a lot of the times, but that can be done really well. And there are a lot of horror tropes that are great and iconic in horror movies. And I think that they can work really nicely at your table or your virtual table for your RPGs. Probably the most famous horror movie trope is the jump scare.
Yeah. You've seen this scare in just about every single horror movie, and it's something, split second jumps out at the camera.
So how do you make a jump scare work at the table? It is tricky. I mean, what's so great about the jump scare is you've got somebody that's looking outside and there's the dark glass, and then all of a sudden there's a face and right? Like it's a visual thing. It's very much a visual thing. So how do we create that at the table? It can be tricky, but we do it sort of narratively by describing what it is that's going on.
Now, one way you can do it is kind of how Ryan just showed with using your voice to scare the players, that sudden loud noise. But you can also do it by setting up the scene. So you're walking through the house, the doors are locked, the windows are shut, everything seems fine. You open a closet door and a body falls out on you. You're not expecting that.
Yeah, and you can get a little bit more excited and you can use your tone of voice, but please don't spend 3 hours screaming at your players in order to create the scary, raw moment. You're going to blow out their speakers, their earbuds, or even just at the table. It's not good for your throat. You can get louder, but it's not like by screaming. I don't think that that's the most effective way to pull it off.
And also jump scares are something that doing it sparingly, I think, makes them more effective, because if you do it too much, then your players are just waiting for it to constantly happen, and it stops being effective.
Well, and you were telling me a really cool name for one of the tropes that is a bit of a advanced jump scare that's really neat.
Yeah, so the nested cat scare does involve a jump scare. But it's the idea of, so there's the cat scare where you hear a noise and you're creeping up and you're worried, oh my gosh, I'm going to shine my flashlight and the thing's going to be there, I'm going to finally catch it. And it's just a cat that knocked over a can.
It's just a cat.
Now, the nested cat scare is building all of that, and you shine your light down and see, oh, it's just a cat, and then the monster appears behind you or something else happens. So you're building up that tension, there's a release, and then the scare.
So, we've got the jump scare and then the advanced nested cat scare, which is just a cool name. Some of them have really neat names. One of my favorite horror movie bad guys is Michael Myers from Halloween, and the trope that Michael Myers fulfills, and you can very easily use in your games, is this idea of sort of the slow-moving, always there, kind of teleporting bad guy. And this can be done to have the bad guy, you see them, you look away to tell somebody else in your party, you look back, and then they're gone. Or it can be the sort of thing where you're checking everything out, you look back to tell everyone that everything's fine, and then you look and all of a sudden the monster's there in your face. Now, you can certainly do that narratively and plan it out, and that can be fun, and you're sort of building in that jump scare or the, oh my god, where did it go type thing. But also mechanically, there are things in Dungeons & Dragons and other games like that, I'm sure, that give you that teleport. I mean, there's a spell, teleport, or even just Misty Step. And so if you as a GM want to have the rules that make these things make sense, which, by the way, I don't think you have to have them. I think story can trump things, especially in a horror one-shot or horror game. But anyway, if you want the rules there, then just customize your bad guy and give them Misty Step. And
or like
there you
a
go.
shadow walk or something.
Absolutely, and all of a sudden they can pop up and disappear wherever it is that you need them in order to help kind of, scare the pants off of your party.
Another great horror trope is the resurrection idea. Jason is an excellent example of this, that the bad guy doesn't just, you stab him once and he dies, but they keep coming back. And there's either a specific way they have to be killed or something has to happen in order to defeat the bad guy. And then that creates a fun letting your players figure that out. Yeah. There are already plenty of monsters that have this mechanic built in that they have to be killed with certain damage, or like vampires are a great classic example of you have to kill them in a specific way or they come back. And you can also set this up really well of the kind of using a little bit of the disappearing bad guy of the, you have a big battle and everyone's like, okay, great, it's done, we killed it. You all check over each other and then somebody glances back and sees the body's gone. And then that adds this fun, like, where did it go? How did it come back?
And a trope that's really fun for horror movies that isn't necessarily about a specific monster, but the genre as a whole is this idea of that there is no escape. I think John Carpenter's The Thing is the best example of that. If you've watched our other films, you know how much I love that movie. But they're stuck. They're stuck at the research station. There is no getting out. And so as a GM, you do need to figure that out. If you're playing Starfinder, then great. You land at one of the orbital space stations and it's small and all of their shuttles are completely destroyed and something bad happens to your ship whenever it docks and there is no getting back to it. Or if it's a fantasy-based setting, play with it. There's something that kills teleportation magic. So you don't have a marvelous mansion that you get to go back into. There is no teleportation circle. Your party is stuck here. And so they have to figure out how to break the curse or kill the monster or survive the 72 hours, whatever that is. It does require, as a GM, being creative enough to think of all of the ways your players might get around it, but then establishing those rules in a vague enough way that when they come up with something you didn't expect, which they will, you can still just sort of be like, yeah, doesn't work. Isn't that weird? But I think that still works and it creates that sense of terror and dread and suspense because everybody's buying into the fact that this is a horror movie game. And
I think that's a very important thing if you're running a horror game.
Yeah.
Really make sure that your players are going to buy in because that's going to make your job easier as a GM, but it's also just going to make the game a lot more fun because everybody is there to play a horror game and get a little scared.
Yeah, and we talk about how important communication is, and I did my own video about setting up the mood of a horror game that you can check out here or maybe over here. It's definitely not over this way now, but you can click on that one. It's pretty fun. But yeah, decide we're all going to be in this for a horror movie. We want to get a little creeped out, set things up that way, and then just allow yourself to be scared. I think that's a lot of fun.
A big thanks to our patrons, especially Alicia. If you want to support our channel, you can head over to our Patreon page and check out the perks of being a patron. What are your favorite horror tropes and how have you used them in game? Let's talk more about it down in the comments below. Or have you used any of these tropes and had some really fun in-game moments?
Yeah, we would love to hear those stories. But until next time, I'm Ryan.
And I'm Dawn.
And this is Roll for Initiative.
Bye.
Bye.